Okay, good morning. Happy Friday.
Good morning.
Here with Lara Postma, one of my new favorite best friends from my leadership tribe. And we are coming here today to talk to you, not to talk to you, but to have a conversation around white privilege. This has been such an intense last few weeks. As we are uncovering all of this tumultuous, uncomfortable, heavy, emotional
Yeah.
stuff that we have within us, and just starting to bring awareness. So I'm just going to make sure we're all good and going live in the group. But yeah, so we kind of wanted to design this space just so that we're all on the same page and some kind of expectations, right, of how we're going to be together in this conversation, because it's so intense and because it is such a vulnerable topic. So Lara, we kind of talked about how we wanted to design this space. What do you feel is important?
One, that we're going to make mistakes. We might say the wrong things. I think the most important thing is to have these conversations, that they're going to be uncomfortable, that we want to create a safe space for the people that want to share their own experiences. And I think the biggest thing is that we can only share our own experiences. This is not about our opinions. This is not about anything other than what we know to be true for ourselves, and that we're willing in this moment right now where we're at, want to share. So I think that's the most important, and that doing this type of inner work and having these conversations might get messy, and what is being said is not with the intent to offend anyone. It might trigger things within other people, but we're just asking that if that happens, no, it's not with ill intention. It's with attempting to do our own work, and uncovering our own either biases or ignorances to what's going on, and how
Yeah.
we might be a part of that and or a part of a possible solution. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the best thing that we can do is you and I, as we're having this conversation, be an example of what it's like to look at your past experiences and your discomfort and your just all these things that are coming up, and to be aware of them and not to judge it, but to dissect it and say,
Yeah.
what can I learn from this, and where are my blind spots,
Yeah.
right? And
Absolutely.
and being an example of that, hopefully inspiring other people to take that hard, uncomfortable look at their own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the big word is judgment across the line,
Yeah.
and judgment of self. Of course, the first thing we usually worry about is judgment from other people. But I have to tell you, doing some of this work just as of very recently, uh, has brought up a lot of emotion for me. And so I have to be careful not to judge myself, because I know where my intention is and where my heart is in doing this work, and what I want for myself and my community and my impact. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to dig into this with you.
Yeah. Me too.
So I think honestly, like, the best place to start is, like, what does white privilege mean to you, right? Like, what's your experience, especially recently? What's your experience of white privilege in your life?
Yeah. I have to admit that I'd never really thought about it before this. You know, this white privilege thing, honestly, if I were to hear it, if I were to have heard it about a month ago, I would have thought it to just be directly related to socioeconomic status as a white person, and or things, or having things, or not having to worry about like profiling. Like, other than that, because there's so many layers to it, wasn't aware of it. So
It's like something that's out there, but not here.
no, because I would rest, honestly, it wouldn't be something that I would feel I needed to really dissect or think about, because I'm a good person. You know, I have good heart. I have, Black friends. I have Black family members. So I'm not quite sure how that would pertain to me.
Right.
And yeah, so I those were my major blind spots. Major blind spots. Yeah. How about you?
I feel when I before the last couple of weeks, when I would hear white privilege, I definitely agreed that just by being white, I do have more privilege over people of color, Black, Indigenous. Like, I was aware of it, but also same thing. Like, I'm a good person. Like, I grew up as a minority, as a white person. Like, I grew up in a poor, Black dominated neighborhood. Like, I was like one of 4 white kids in my my elementary school. I definitely experienced being judged for being a white person, but I also understood that being white, that I had privileges. So yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, now that, we're making a choice to do some internal work and have these conversations and learn and listen, how do you view it differently now? Like, what comes up for you now?
I mean, the amount of shame and guilt and ignorance that I felt in the last few weeks is just like, it's overwhelming. Because again, like, I'm a good person. I'm non-judgmental. Like I said, I grew up with, like, my neighbors were Black kids, and I would go hang out with them. And, like, I love them, and we had so much fun. And like, in my heart, like, I'm a loving and accepting person. And at the same time, had no idea the oppression that was going on it's ingrained in like everything around us. And I just like, I feel so much ignorance for being so blind. So like, just, yeah.
Well, and you can give yourself the excuse of when you're younger, right? When you're a child. I'm 48, for Pete's sake. And I am now just being illuminated to how huge an issue this is. And I'm ashamed of that. The line of work that I'm in, the relationships that I have, it makes, I'm thinking about it on a daily basis now. And, the 2 things that came up for me as I, started wanting to do a lot more learning and listening was, one, how, I consider myself an empath, but I have no idea and could never put myself in the shoes of a Black person. When I go out and I run every morning, I don't think twice about it. I put on my earbuds, I listen to a podcast or a music, and I don't think of anything else other than just running and my own thoughts. I can't imagine just always having that underlying fear. However great or little it is, it's always
Right.
present for someone of color. The other thing that just makes me emotional is being a mother. I can't imagine what a mother that is Black, that has sons. I have a son. I have an 18-year-old son. And what Black mothers have to deal with. The worry, the anxiety, the fear for their children. Having a conversation with Max, he just, getting his driver's license. And okay, when you get pulled over, this is what you need to do. They're just going to ask you for your driver's license and insurance card and just answer the questions. And like, there's no...
Yeah, be respectful and whatever, and you'll be fine.
Like you would any other adult, right? But for what does that conversation look? It's totally different.
Like we can't even imagine it. We can't even imagine that because it's so far removed from our reality.
Yeah. So those are the things that I think about. Those are the things that I think I have been naive around. Those are the things that right now I'm feeling ashamed around. I'm not beating myself up for it. I'm not chastising myself for it, but I'm ashamed of how naive and ignorant I've kind of been around the privilege that I have had, and am right now attempting to do some work around how has my impact, what's my impact having thought that way, or having just been blind to that.
Right.
What's been my impact, however unintentional it might have been. And I just think that's where I have to start.
Yeah.
That's where I have to start. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wanted to dig into that in bringing, because we talked about how saboteurs or gremlins would play into our thoughts around this. Right. And this is a place that we could help kind of direct people in a way of thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So the gremlins in my head, well, it's funny because the saboteurs, gremlin saboteurs, what the saboteurs are, what they would say to me before, it was almost like, I wouldn't think about the privilege I would have before, other than seeing people of color going through. I used to work retail back in the day. And there would be people of color that would come in to the store, and I would almost want to overcompensate to give them service, because I knew that there were other people in the store that would be on guard when they would come in. And this is when I lived in Hawaii, so it was diverse in Hawaii. And the saboteurs at that point would just tell me, okay, like overcompensate, make them feel welcome. Like, why would I even feel like that? It's just interesting to me, like, why would I have that self chatter? Why would I feel I'd need to overcompensate?
Mm-hmm.
Now, being at the very beginning of my education and learning about my impact, the gremlins, or I keep saying gremlins, the saboteurs, they sound different. Now they're all over the place. They're saying, where else are you not looking? What can you do? We need to take action around this.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk about it more. And I just feel like I'm a horse at the gate wanting to take action, but I don't want to, like from what Charles's article said, I don't want a knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
I really want to do this work where
With intention and
very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. My saboteurs have been a lot different. One like thread that I've noticed, and I mean, I know this about myself. So like growing up and now, like I'm very sensitive. I'm very empathic. Like I'm very, like I will soak up someone else's energy. Like if I'm like,
yes,
someone I'm dating or a friend or whatever, like if they're like in a shitty mood, like I soak it up like a sponge.
Yeah.
And so for me growing up, like I learned super early on that like I cannot watch the news. And like I cannot watch scary movies. Like I can't watch scary movies. I can't watch the news. Like it hits me so deep in my heart and my core that like it's so overwhelming that like from a really young age, I was just like, I can't do that. And so like I have grown up as an adult and I still don't watch the news. Judge me how you will, whatever. But like, that up to this point has been a protection mechanism for me, right? To avoid discomfort. And while at times I think that's a good thing, like not getting sucked into the drama of the news and the drama of different things, it has totally played a part in my ignorance.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at that and saying like, it's time to wake the fuck up. Like you have been asleep. Like you have been purposely living in your own little dream world for so long. Like I'm so out of touch with reality in a lot of ways because of that choice I made when I was really young and have just continued. And it's like, it's empowering for me to say like, I'm choosing differently. Like I'm choosing to educate myself. I'm choosing to lean into the discomfort. Like, even though it hurts, like it has to be done.
Yeah. Well, and even I'm the same way. I don't listen to the news for the same reason. It's upsetting to me, but okay. Well, if I'm not going to do that, I feel like I need to get my education. I need to choose.
Yeah.
Not just not watch it and not know what the hell is going on. Okay. But I need to know what's going on and I need to choose where I'm going to get my information.
Yeah.
So because I didn't want to be bothered with the uncomfort or the information, I would choose not to take action on that.
Yeah.
So I relate to that very much so.
Yeah. I was just going to say, hi, Mom. Thanks for being here. She said she's so proud of me. I
wanted to, when you think of what else is making you feel right now with what's going on, what makes you feel uncomfortable?
Me personally.
Just as of lately.
I think the most uncomfortable part is my it's just my ignorance. Like it's that I've chosen to ignore.
Yeah.
um, all the shit in the world, all the ugliness,
Yeah.
because it's something that I can't be with. But like that's not an option. And so yeah, like that's super uncomfortable for me to admit.
I think where my shame has come from is the fact that it took me this moment in time of what's going on right now and what has been happening to spark like, well, this is what happened. So when the protests were going on around the city in Chicago, it started to bleed out into the, suburbia. And so there was here in our area, it started to, there were some protesting that went on, which was great. But then we were getting word through social media that there were going to be people that were going to start looting, and that we're going to be kind of on the bandwagon of the protesters, just kind of piggybacking based on where they were. And so, so of course, like the neighbors are like coming outside and we're talking about it, and it elicited fear because we even had people like driving down our street and just checking it out. And we're like, what the hell is going on? And it just elicited so much fear. And it wasn't until that time that I'm like, well, we need to stay home and we need to, kind of hunker down. After all that was said and done, I'm like, that's what it takes me. It needs to be a threat to my family. I have to wait until it's a threat to my family until, I want to start learning about this and know what the hell's going on. I mean, like that's where my shame comes from. Like I feel, I'm embarrassed about that.
I can feel it. Yeah, I can feel it in you. Like that shook you.
Yeah, it shook me. And then I'm like, well, what is it that what am I scared of? What am I scared of? It just, and then again, it's just like, well, the people that are protesting, the people that are, I can't relate. This is like, I need to wake the fuck up. And this is like me just being reactionary. I'm only being reactionary. Up until this point, I've only been reactionary to this. And that's what I'm embarrassed about. That's what I've been feeling. It's just like, how much information can I consume now? I can't consume enough information, but I'm still trying. And that's my jam, right? Oh, I got to get all this information, learn. But it's not just gaining the information. For me, it's about what's coming up for me as I'm reading these things. What's coming up for me as I'm reading social media. I'm not going to not read social media because it might, well, hey, people are judging me because I'm not posting on social media.
Mm. Oh yeah,
right?
where are you getting defensive?
Yeah. So, and that's when all this started going down. I'm like, you're not going to tell me what to post. You're not going to tell me that my silence is going to, but it's interesting. It's like now that things are, I'm just starting my own work. It's like, how has my silence, how has my, the non-realization of my privilege and that impact of that, how has that, how has that affected people in my circle and in my community? And I still have to do tons of work. And this is just, for me personally, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
In my eyes, it's just the beginning because I rested on my laurels of I'm a good person and what I do passionately for work is helping people see the best versions of themselves. so that it introduces a different layer to that. So that's kind of what sparked my defense in the very beginning. That would make me feel really defensive, is like, don't tell me that I need to post. I'm not going to post because you're telling me to post.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, even though I don't feel the need to post because somebody else is telling me, what I have learned in listening, being uncomfortable with still reading social media and learning, is not judging how I'm feeling, and just like, okay, I'm kind of pissed off at that statement. What's going on? Why am I pissed off? Why
Yeah.
does that hit me hard? So I'm looking at it a little bit differently for my own work, for my own growth, and to feed my own ignorance.
And I think that way of processing and that way of self-reflection is what I would encourage other people to do, right? As you're exploring your white privilege and as you're exploring this new awareness around how ingrained it is in us, just start noticing.
Yeah.
Where am I getting defensive?
Yeah.
What's triggering me? When am I getting uncomfortable? What is it about that is making me uncomfortable and triggering something in me? And dig into that.
Yeah. And, in the past, there's been times where slurs have been used, and innuendos have been talked about. And I can't sit anymore. And that's uncomfortable, right? You sit in that and I grew up with some of that, so.
Like other people around you, either like making like racial comments or hinting at or whatever.
Yeah. And trying to be funny. Some not funny, that just blatant, discrimination,
Right.
But then others just like joking around. And whether I would pass it with just a smirk and not say anything, when people are now saying you can't be silent, it's not just on social media. Well, okay, I'm going to post when I want to post, when I'm ready to, with what's authentic to me. But man, that silence now, as I'm listening and learning, is a broader circle. Where am I silent? Where have I been silent? Looking back where I've been silent.
Yeah.
What comes up for me when that happens? What am I afraid of?
Yeah, I think that's, because I'm sure we've all had an experience where we've been in a situation, especially maybe with someone you're not super close with. And so you don't want to offend them by calling out their bullshit from them being assholes. But I think we've probably all done it. And that's shitty and hard to admit, but that's the reality. And that silence is a huge part of the problem.
There are so many ripples effect to the lack of action or the action that you decide to take based on privilege. And
you have an impact either way.
You know what? This is what's coming up for me too, is regardless of the learning that I do, however wide I broaden my awareness, I will always have white privilege. Always. That doesn't go away. I hope that does, maybe when Max's children are around, and I'm hoping that I can play a part in that. But for a long time, it's just because I'm learning about it, just because I'm starting to open up my eyes and become aware, regardless of what actions I decide to take and however little or huge impact I have, I will always have white privilege. That so it's not, it's just, are you aware of it? Or are you going to get defensive around it?
Right.
You know? So that's, yeah, that was just something that just, it will always be. I'm hoping it won't be. But yeah.
But yeah, yeah, it is, it exists. It is woven into our everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there anything that you find that you have found?
oh, Charles just said, just be aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Charles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you have found as of lately, anything that you're reading or anything that you've absorbed that has stuck with you to kind of sit with, whether it be like
Oh, I just watched
that
13th on Netflix.
you just watch what?
13th on Netflix. It's like about the 13th Amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, I was crying like a couple minutes in. It like the way they put together the information. So basically, the 13th Amendment is it's the abolishment of slavery, except for if you're a criminal, basically, you can be a slave. So after the abolishment of slavery, they put this clause in, which then led to this like widespread criminalization of Black men, so that they could still be slaves. And since then, it's been this portrayal of in our media, in our everything, in our culture, in our media, and all this stuff is portraying Black men as scary, as criminals, as less than, as whatever, so that we can control them. And like it's like crazy.
Okay. Well, I'll have to watch that. Yeah.
Like I had no fucking idea.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense, like how they take it all the way back and they bring this line through to today, and you're just like, no wonder. Like it makes
and
so
relevant
much
examples. Yeah.
Yeah, like amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely recommend watching that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel at this point it's our beginning. At least I'm admittedly saying it's my beginning.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Me too.
You know, I can't say that for everybody, but I'm just speaking from my own experience that this is important work for me. I want to, with intention and vulnerability, to have uncomfortable conversations with seekers like you, but also to be okay with the discomfort in shifting not just what I say, but what I do, and how I'm with other people's white privilege that they're unaware of. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say? What's something that you're committing to, or what's something that's important for you as you move forward in the next couple of weeks?
Learning. I've been doing that through reading. There are some new people that I'm following on social media that give amazing information, articles like Charles's. And
Charles, can you post the link to your article in the comments here? That would be awesome.
Yeah. And not just reading it for the information, but reading it to have a better understanding of self, and to expand my own awareness, not just for the information that I can share with others or pass on to others, right? Because, you know, we're always, there's so many times, I can't tell you how many times I'll read a book or I'll read an article or I'll listen to a podcast or I'll see a show or something. And I'll immediately think of a person that I need to pass it on to.
Yeah.
Immediately. I'm like, you have to listen to this podcast or you have to read this book. And I'm going to try to keep that at bay, in the sense of sitting with it with myself for a little bit and doing a little bit more integration for myself before I share. Again, just that whole knee-jerk thing just comes back into my head. I want that to be an anchor as I go forward. So to me, awareness is such a huge tool before I start taking intentional action. And that's something I want to do, but I have to broaden my awareness first.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I commit to. So continue with, reading the books and podcasts and following people that give me a lot of insight.
Yeah. And really sitting with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the thing. I feel like it's so easy for us to see this and say like, what's the solution? How do we fix it? How do we it's so easy to like that knee jerk to jump in and say like, well, like this sucks. So how do we fix it?
Yeah.
But like the first thing you can do is sit with yourself and your impact and your piece in the puzzle.
Yeah.
That is the most critical, important work that you can do right now.
Yeah.
From that, then the action, then the integration and and then that and then creating a vision for what's possible. Like what could our future look like?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think too, you want so much for other people. You want to show people where they are going wrong or they're not seeing something. And it's letting go of that fixer within me. And the only thing that I have control over is myself. What I absorb, what I feed myself. And I can't do that for other people. I'm just hoping that just having these conversations will just enlighten any other person that's a seeker and that wants the information or wants to share their own experience. It can just have a trickle effect. But at this point, I can only focus on myself and what I do and think. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually exactly Charles just said, do the inner work and the world will follow.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yep.
No doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. This feels like a good wrap-up point. Yeah. Oh, I love you so much. I'm so grateful.
So much. Yeah.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
So grateful for this, this space, this safe space, our willingness to be vulnerable and messy together and to hopefully be an example for other people to keep leaning into the discomfort and start at home first, right?
Absolutely.
And then we can see where we can go after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Missy.
Yeah. I hope you have an amazing day, and everyone out there, be safe. And Lara and I are both coaches, and we're digging into this together. So if you need support or extra help or extra lovin's, reach out to us, and have an amazing weekend, you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Take care.